At Thanksgiving dinner, my dad announced, "We're selling the company. You're getting nothing." My brother and sister actually clapped. Dad bragged the buyer was Everest Holdings for $50 million. I set my fork down and said, "Dad, I'm Everest Holdings." I was the ignored middle kid in our Boston software royalty family. My brother got titles for breathing. My sister got praise for posting our logo with a filter. I got the condescending smile every time I talked tech. "That's sweet," Dad would say, then turn back to golf talk like I was furniture. When I was 22, I walked into a board meeting with a cloud integration plan. 10 minutes in, Dad cut me off mid-sentence. "Creative but impractical," he told the room, like I was showing finger paint. The board chuckled while I packed my laptop. That night, I left and stopped begging to be taken seriously. I moved to San Francisco with $5,000 in pure spite. I freelanced, lived on ramen, and built a firm under a different name. I called it Everest Holdings, and I worked behind a professional alias, so the Adams name couldn't help me. Being underestimated is powerful when you know how to use it. Back home, Dad kept running the legacy on fumes, outdated product, bloated management, clients drifting, so I did what he always preached. I made moves, quietly. Everest bought stakes in his biggest suppliers and 2 key clients. Then my team sent a partnership offer through a third party. Dad rejected it without reading past page 1. So I flew home for Thanksgiving, dressed like money and acting harmless. Dad was twitchy all day, phone in hand, whispering to Mom. Mom played her usual role. Smile, pour wine, pretend nothing's wrong. My brother bragged about his boat. My sister filmed everything, waiting for drama like it was content. At dinner, I was seated as far from Dad as possible, which felt normal. He tapped his knife on the glass and announced the sale would close tomorrow, then added there'd be no inheritance. My brother slammed the table while my sister cried into her phone, and Mom reached for the bottle. I kept eating pie and asked my one question. Slow motion hit the room. Dad said, "Everest Holdings," and leaned back smugly. Then I stood, slow and steady. Next I said, "I own Everest." My brother knocked over his wine. It spread across the white cloth like a warning. My sister's phone shook in her hand. The grandfather clock kept ticking like it was counting. Dad sputtered, "Everest is run by Emmy Stone." I slid my card across the table. "That's me. I built it after you humiliated me." I named the suppliers we controlled. I named the clients we had pieces of. Dad's face changed with every word, like his ego was doing math it didn't like. He tried to puff up and snapped, "This deal is off." I kept my voice flat. "Contracts are signed, the board approved it, and the announcement goes out at 9 a.m. He threatened lawyers, and I just blinked. "Your lawyers already told you this was your best option, you just liked believing the buyer was a stranger." Upstairs, my brother stormed into my old room and called me a traitor. I called him what he was, a thief. I told him I'd audited the books and found $300,000 routed through fake vendors. His mouth went dry. "Quiet resignation and repayment," I said, "or we do this the hard way." The next morning, Dad dragged me into his study, looking 10 years older, and finally asked what I wanted. "To keep Grandpa's name on the building, and to stop pretending you don't see me," I said. I laid out the terms. Chairman Emeritus title, an office, no power. He hated it, but he knew he'd lost. For once, he asked real business questions, then admitted, quietly, "Your grandfather would have been impressed." It wasn't an apology, but reality finally landed. 6 months later, the company still existed, but the rot was gone. We kept most staff, cut the dead weight, and rebuilt the product like it was this decade, not last century. My brother repaid what he stole and disappeared into an MBA. My sister tried to pitch herself as brand ambassador, and I told her to earn it. Dad showed up to meetings and, for the first time in my life, listened before he spoke. Here's the part that still makes me laugh. My father spent a decade underestimating me, and that was my favorite disguise. If your family ever treated you like background noise, what would you have done at that table? Comment and tell me your move. No sugarcoating. Give me the details.